Hello and welcome into another episode of Popcorn for Breakfast. We have two huge news stories to cover today. The first being the Golden Globe nominees for 2025 have officially been announced. We are going to give some quick reactions to the nominees and our take on them, as well as the recent news that Chris Evans is joining the cast of Avengers Doomsday, joining Robert Downey Jr. as a returning Avenger in that film. We're going to talk about what it means and what we think about that. Let's do it.
This is Popcorn for Breakfast, presented by St. Louis Area Smoothie Kings. Now, here are your hosts, Cam and Kurt.
I've been watching like so many 2024 releases.
Mm-hmm.
I really think, and maybe this is not something I should say on a movie podcast, but I really do think that 2024 has not been a great year for movies.
That is absolutely correct.
And I feel that way every year. I felt that way a little bit last year, and I look back at last year now, and I'm like, I was an idiot.
It's every other year, man. It's every other
Last year was great. Actually, I
Mhm.
felt looking back at last year, I'm like, man, I'd love to be talking about those films again. That was like a really fun Oscar cycle. And of course, there's always nominees that you feel like, not a great choice. That's always going to happen, particularly with the Globes, because the Globes be globing.
Garbage.
They be globing. So we'll get into that. But there was the America Ferrera thing last year that was like, okay, that feels weird. But it's like this year, I'm like, man, there's like 4 or 5 films floating around in that like conversation. Like if you look at Gold Derby and you look at these places that predict what the best picture is going to be, like there are a couple films up there that I'm just like, eek.
I haven't checked them recently. Certainly they don't have.
They've held steady. And I know that there's always movement, post Globes. There's also movement just like as campaign season kind of kicks on. We're still really on the early part of it.
Yeah.
But there's like a consensus 10 that have been going on there.
Wow.
And I feel like it's like, I'm just going to rattle off what I can off the top of my head. Like Conclave's in there, The Brutalist.
Yep.
Dune Part 2's in there. Wicked.
Why is Dune Part 2 so low on all of these predictions? That's crazy.
Well, I think recency bias is a big piece of it, and I hate that.
Right.
But it's true. Then there's Wicked, there's Anora, there's Emilia Pérez. What else?
Sing Sing,
Nickel Boys,
Substance,
and The Substance kind of on the fringes there. And so there's a few films up there, like those first 7 I named or whatever, like after Nickel Boys, like Sing Sing, Nickel Boys, Emilia Pérez, and before that, those feel like the locks. And I'm like, why are those the locks? Like there are some in there that I don't know. September 5 is another one that feels like it's getting. I haven't seen September 5. I haven't seen Anora, but there are a lot of movies that are kind of starting to shuffle into place there. And I have questions about it. So why don't we get into these Globes nominations?
I just want to say real quick that I'm upset that I just had to double check this, that Civil War, A24 Civil War.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Did premiere in 2024.
It did, yes.
And it's on no one's list.
I think it was like April when it came out.
Exactly, April 26th.
So that's post Dune Part 2.
Yes.
Is that post Challengers? I think it is post Challengers.
Yeah, Challengers isn't on anyone's radar on these
which
Gold Derby
Challengers got nominated for Golden Globe,
right?
Which was surprising to me in a good way. I'm hyped on that movie. Like I'm actually pretty big on it. I wrote a pretty glowing blog about it for our website.
Yeah,
I love that movie. So I was surprised because of recency bias that it squeaked into the Globes. But didn't they put it in comedy?
They did.
See, it's this thing. So now they do 6 in each category. They do drama, then they do comedy or musical. And I feel like that ends up, you get movies like, usually not movies like Challengers. Usually it's something like, I don't know, last year was like Air.
Yeah, the Martian was a pretty notorious one.
Like there are movies that like this year, Challengers certainly isn't a comedy. I wouldn't call A Real Pain a comedy. It is a comedy drama of sorts. It's silly. The comedy or musical thing is silly. They shouldn't do it, but they do.
I think they got such a good reaction out of the Martian year that they continue to do it on purpose.
They continue to throw one in there that's like clearly not a comedy or musical.
I think it is a strictly PR move
because it's the same thing. Like they're doing that with The Bear.
Mhm.
They always put The Bear in comedy, and The Bear. We're not really going to talk about the TV stuff, but The Bear did do really well. I was wondering how that third season would do with the Globes.
Mhm.
It's done really well. 5 nominations. I think it led all TV shows. Certainly, I mean, you could argue that the early season 1 and maybe even season 2 are comedy. Season 3 didn't feel very comedic to me. It felt more heavy.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about the big nominations. Now, I think
Okay.
the storylines that are sort of stealing the day here are that it's sort of a two-sided coin. The first is that Emilia Pérez, which is a Netflix film. It's a musical. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's available on Netflix now. You can watch it now. Unlike some of these movies that haven't hit theaters yet, we've gotten a chance to watch some of them have early screenings, which has been really great.
Right.
But not all of them, because a lot of these are still on their way out the door. But Emilia Pérez you can watch now, and it led the way from all nominations with 10 nominations. And Dune Part 2, which many people have been lauding as like one of the great movies of the year, you know, Denis Villeneuve, big sweeping sci-fi epic, blockbuster, what have you, got two nominations.
Nope.
So I think that's the big one. But let's just talk about Best Motion Picture. Let's just hit it hard, and then we can talk about other things that we saw that we thought were weird or great or whatever.
Yes.
So let's start with drama. And for those of you who are new to the program or have been with us in the past, we've gone through every category and painstakingly talked about every nominee.
Makeup, costume.
Which, like, luckily the Globes doesn't have a lot of those technical categories, and I think that's why probably Dune only gets 2 nominations, because, you know, anyway. So you can't look at it in terms of total nominations technically with the Globes, but it's painful for us to go category by category. So we're just going to kind of hit on the Best Picture, and then we'll talk about a couple things. And if you have thoughts in the comments, feel free to drop them.
Light us up. Let's see what you got.
Best Motion Picture Drama: The Brutalist, The Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nickel Boys, and September 5. And then Best Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, we've got Anora, Challengers, Emilia Pérez, A Real Pain, The Substance, and Wicked.
What?
Well, and I haven't seen Anora, so I can't speak to that, but I have seen the other 5 in this category. And The Substance, I mean, it's a satire, so that's fine. I'll let it stay in the comedy section. It's not like a laugh out loud, hilarious type of movie. It's the sort of like absurd satire, like social commentary type of film that,
Right.
you know, kind of like Triangle of Sadness was that last year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Somehow.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a tight 2 years.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it kind of fills that satire spot that we tend to get, like a real over the top artsy thing. Challengers, certainly not a comedy.
No.
But I'm glad it's here. Challengers deserves the recognition. I am not always a huge fan of Luca Guadagnino. I love this movie. I think it's bold. I think it's one of those things that you're either going to love it or you hate it. I loved it. I'm glad that it's there. I think it has good acting performances. I was glad to see Zendaya also got nominated. That's good. Wicked is not a surprise to me. A Real Pain is not a surprise to me. The Substance, I was happy to see here. And then Anora, Emilia Pérez.
You want to talk shocks?
Yes.
Listen, talk about recency bias. I just watched Emilia Pérez last night.
Mm-hmm.
I started it at about midnight. I finished at about 2:30. I watched.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. I was dedicated for you.
Wow.
For you.
I got that
Cam.
text at like 2:30, like, hey, just finished Emilia Pérez. I was like, my eyes were glassy. I was like, is this a dream? Is this real?
Who is it, honey? Oh, it's just Kirk. He finished watching a Netflix movie. He had to tell me.
He had to let me know.
That movie has no business being anywhere on any list. I'll call it out right now.
Yeah.
I'll call it out right now.
What laid out? What, like, it, you think out of all of these, and I guess we're kind of talking about musical or comedy. Sorry, this is so disjointed.
Yeah, that's okay.
Musical or comedy, that's the one that sticks out to you.
That's the one that sticks out to me out of all of these because it has zero business being here, having the most nominations. It is like so the whole premise of the film is a lot of Mexican pride. A lot of it takes place in Mexico, and it's like the Mexican La La Land, or at least the writer of this wanted it to be. That's my feel. That's my feelings on it because they the writer of this really wanted them to break into song. It's a musical, just a reminder,
It is.
at any given time, which we do have clear moments in La La Land where it makes sense for them to start singing. This makes no sense at any point. It is bad. It is bad.
Yeah, I mean, I also hated this movie, and I think what's interesting about it is you and I and Stefano were kind of talking about it in the group chat the other day
Mhm.
when the noms dropped. I guess it was yesterday. Um, I have yet to see one person that I know personally praise this movie. And
Right.
like we have, I mean, I legitimately have not seen it. And so I watched it and my immediate reaction was this was awful. Like
Mhm.
I couldn't make sense of I thought it was a bad story that where the the whole like um transgender portion of the story that I thought the Academy might be drawn to because they love like things that are topical, things that are like
That's right.
progressive, etc. It's essentially reduced to a total gimmick in this
Yes.
movie. It's only a catalyst for the plot because the plot can't happen without a transgender character in the lead.
Correct.
Like the story does not function.
And the story falls apart right at the beginning because we get no time with our lead character to even get a glimpse or any kind of empathy towards him to feel like, yeah, I believe that this man wants to be a woman. I
Right.
believe that. Don't believe it for a second. I don't believe it for a second, and that's how the story falls apart immediately.
It does, and I think the other thing is that the main character, how can I say this in the kind of spoiler free way, like, is a terrible person
Yes!
through and through, all the way to the very end. You
Yes.
know,
There's zero empathy applied to this character.
it's like, and it's like I get it, like there's some sub themes of like redemption and like second chances and things like that, but it's like there's some bad stuff going on.
Right.
There's some bad stuff.
It's not like you're watching Walter White, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
Like you want Walter White to be bad and succeed. Like
It's weird.
this
yeah.
is nowhere near that.
You're just like, I don't like you. You've done you manipulate people, you
Yeah.
lie, you're violent. Like it's just not,
I would rather, what's the character's name? Manitas and then Emilia. I would rather that they choose one or the other and just
Yeah.
go for it.
yeah,
Yep.
right. So it's a weird movie, and I think that it's a musical where every song is bad.
Yes.
There's not one good song. In fact, half the time you can't even tell if they've broken into song or not because they're either mumbling. Each song is like 21 seconds long. It's the weirdest movie, and I get it. Like I like weird off the wall stuff. I want things to be bold, and I think a lot of people who are voting for this must be voting for it because they're like, "Wow, what a brash, loud, out there kind of movie."
Uh-huh.
But the thing is, it doesn't work. Like it actively does not work.
I wonder if, and I think we've had this discussion before, but I really wonder if the voters, and it's not Hollywood Forward Press anymore, right? It's
different,
Yeah.
but there's the key part about the new Golden Globe voting group is that there is zero overlap with the Academy
yes,
at all.
it's means nothing is what that means.
Completely separate. So that's intriguing.
But we've spoken about this before. The way these movies release, it's very likely that the voters don't get even an opportunity to see the movie before they vote.
Mm.
So they're looking at descriptions and they're probably like, "Oh man, I've acted with Zoe in 6 films. She's fantastic. She's the leader of $3 billion film franchises. How can she fail? How can this movie fail? Look at how cool it looks."
Right.
They're just looking at it on paper before they vote.
Yeah. And I think I think you're right that I hate that. I hate that that is a thing, but I think it happens in the Academy too,
It
where there's
does.
a lot of people who just are phoning it in. So that sucks. Or they, and who knows what these people's background is, what they're looking for, whatever. This one though, I think, and I'm dumbfounded by it because I saw Denis Villeneuve release his top 5 movies of the year, and he had Emilia Perez in it, and he didn't give any commentary or anything. So again, I still haven't seen somebody that I like know and trust. Not that I know Denis Villeneuve, but like,
Oh, we know him. We know him very well.
I love his film, so I would love his perspective on it. But
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, there's a difference between being like, you can be bold and bad. You can
Yes.
be boldly bad. And I think that that's what this is. And I see so many people being like, oh, this movie is like unapologetic. It's transcend genre because it's a crime thriller, but also a musical. And I'm like, dude, what it is a mess.
Yes.
It is a disaster.
Yes, those statements are true, but it's just bad.
I
It's
know.
just bad movie, bad storytelling.
I even was like scouring, not to stay on this movie for so long, but
We're not talking about the Globes. Actually, this is the Emilia Pérez bashing
I'm so
session.
sorry. I even was scouring the Rotten Tomatoes reviews just to see like what people were saying. Even the good reviews would be like, this thing is a mess, but I loved it. And I'm like, what? I'm just like, what is happening?
Well, listen, it's just like Moana 2 reviews, right? They're like, it's not as good
Yeah.
as the first.
Well-
the songs are terrible, but I love seeing Moana back
They're
on
like,
the screen.
but it's beautifully animated. Yeah, those all had to
It's
be
the same thing.
bought.
It's as if people are, they definitely were bought. It's as if though people are just trying to vote what they think should be popular.
Right.
And say like, oh, people should love this. No, people will love this if it's good. So put out a good product. Movie making is very difficult, but put out a good product.
I think that people who evaluate movies, and maybe I'm one of these people, I don't really know, but maybe I just lack self-awareness. They struggle to evaluate something that's not clear. And I think this being the genre transcendent thing that it is, where it's like, Jacques Audiard, the French director of this film, is a bit of an auteur. He does weird stuff. I think sometimes when people are faced with that, they don't know what to do.
Mhm.
They're just like, I don't know how to evaluate this, so I think it's great,
Yeah.
or whatever. And I feel like it's like, no, if you didn't enjoy watching it, like it was bad, but I don't know, maybe not. So that one for me, I'm with you, is a weird one. And I would love, please, if somebody's out there who's seen
Yes.
it and loved it, hit me. Because I actually need to hear the opinion, because I have not seen it yet.
That's what's great about our podcast, guys and gals. We're not here to fight you. We will stand by our opinion. But if you present a good reason, then we might change our opinion.
Yeah, we had this great comment on the Wicked review the other day where this person was like, I agree with you guys that the Ozdust Ballroom thing really drags, but at the same time, so many people are connecting with that.
Yep.
And like, maybe we need to examine that and figure out like, what is it that is not clicking with us that's clicking with other people? And that's genuinely what I want to understand about Emilia Pérez too. Like,
thank you to the psychologist in our YouTube.
It was
comments.
beautiful. I was like, that is
I like
really
that.
well said. But yeah, it's, I'm genuinely curious on these things that I don't get, that I'm like, some people are connecting with this.
Yeah.
Tell me how.
Open our eyes.
Yeah.
Please.
I want it. Okay, so let's move over to drama, because we've talked a lot about, I don't really have much more to say on musical or comedy. I think that one may be telling. If you remember the Globes last year, they did pretty good. It wasn't totally indicative of the Oscars, because I think like, Paul Giamatti didn't win the Academy Award for Best Actor, but he only won for comedy last year, whereas
Right.
Cillian Murphy won for drama.
Mhm.
And it was the same thing where I think Lily Gladstone won for drama last year at the Globes, but then Emma Stone won at the Oscar. So they did pretty well last year though. So this is a category I'm watching, because if Wicked wins it, then I'm like, is Wicked going to win Best Picture? I think that's a real possibility. And if something like Anora wins it, what does that mean? And if something like Emilia Pérez wins it, then what does that mean?
It's a total crapshoot this year, because
It is.
Because we don't have a lot of like similar like movies, or even like everything is a winner, right?
Yeah.
We don't have that. So that makes it that much more chaotic. It's like watching the game of Survivor, and like there's a season where like that guy's going to win, that guy's going to win, that guy's going to win. Great, no problem. But then when you have all these other elements of like, maybe this person's mediocre, they could slip in here. That's what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah. I'll say this.
Hopefully you
though.
like Survivor.
To that point, I'll say this though. And maybe it's a question as well. Challengers and A Real Pain.
Mhm.
Do you think they have a chance? Because I kind of don't. I kind of think they're the two that squeaked in, and it's like, they're not going to make it.
They're too small, and there's nothing wrong with either of those films. I've not seen
Right.
Challengers, but they don't have as big of an impact
Yep.
as the other movies seem to have.
They're not as part of the cultural moment.
Which is funny, because A Real Pain seems kind of like an indie film, and it really kind of like the budget.
It is.
It's
I
a
mean, yeah,
mid-budget
it is.
film, and Challengers is a big budget film, or
Yep.
bigger than A Real Pain, and both of them are kind of like they're going to be counted out. I think
Yeah, I think so too.
pretty quickly.
All right, so drama. We've got The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nickel Boys, and September 5. So I've seen 3 of these. I haven't seen Nickel Boys September 5 or Complete Unknown. We see Complete Unknown next Tuesday.
Yes.
So we'll mark that off. But we have seen The Brutalist. I've seen Conclave, and we've both seen Dune Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one will go to The Brutalist. I think The Brutalist is like a heavy hitter. It just, if you look at what it is, it's a 3.5 hour wartime period epic.
And so is Dune Part 2.
In a way, yes. And so, I mean, that just checks when award people love to be hoity-toity. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved The Brutalist. I know you were not as high on it as I was, but don't you feel like it's one of those that kind of checks the like what these kind of guys like to vote for?
It does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does.
Like in terms of format.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've seen, I mean, in a way, it's kind of like another Adrian Brody film, The Pianist. Like
it's exactly like
it's
that.
Very much like it.
He's going through a brutal, he's going through a brutal time. Thank you. And just trying to survive through this 3.5 hour runtime. And he's crying and he's laughing and he's smiling and he's screaming and he's going through every emotion. They want to give him that award again.
Yeah.
Who did he kiss? When he won his award? Was it like Cameron Diaz? Oh man.
Oh, I don't know. You're better at this stuff.
I don't remember.
I'm not the award show historian.
No, it couldn't have been Cameron Diaz. It was the previous year's best actress winner. So maybe like Natalie Portman or someone. Whoever he kissed, I wonder if he'll try to do it again. We'll see.
We'll see.
Probably not.
But yeah, I feel like that one has all the momentum and it's going to go. Dune Part 2, I don't know. I don't know what's going to end up happening with this movie. I feel like it should be a real contender for the big one. It's still like my favorite movie of the year. I'd say that. Conclave also super fun. Stefano saw Nickel Boys and said it was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what to make of this category. I just feel like The Brutalist is going to win.
I want Dune Part 2 to have an Oppenheimer effect. It won't have an Oppenheimer effect, but I want it to get the votes like a clean sweep. Right?
Yeah.
Because it is. I'm not like I don't like breathe, sleep, eat Dune or Dune Part 2, but I do recognize that it is above everyone else on this particular list.
Yeah, I feel that way still too. And I loved Conclave. I thought Conclave was super fun, and I loved The Brutalist, though that was not super fun.
Not super fun.
That was harrowing.
My back still hurts.
Yeah.
The chair.
Yes. So yeah, those are the big ones. So let's move on to some of the other, just like I'll spout off a few things that I saw that caught my eye,
okay,
and then you can do the same. Dune Part 2 score was nominated here, which we've heard that it will not be nominated at the Academy because it's Best Original Score.
Uh-huh.
And Hans Zimmer posted that, or I saw Hans Zimmer's comments on this, and I thought they were really good. The Academy's got to do away with that original score thing. Like, it wouldn't make sense, as he basically said this, like, it's a Part 2 movie, so they can't change all the characters' themes and the main theme. Like, it's a Part 2, so it's one story told in 2 parts.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, if you do this, like, it starts to influence the way studios think about movies, and it's like, oh, can we not win an original score? If so, maybe we don't hire Hans Zimmer. You know what I mean? Like, these are real conversations that could be had about that. So I'm glad that it's nominated here. I hope it wins. Animated picture, not to keep like dragging Moana 2, but like, get this thing out of here. Get it out. Give me Transformers 1. Give me Transformers 1 in that spot.
Swap it out right now. Yeah, I think Wild Robot takes that, and that's without having seen anything else besides Inside Out 2 in that category. In Moana.
I think the 2 juggernauts, maybe 3 if you include Inside Out. Flow is the other one that people are really buzzing about.
Okay.
And it just released to theaters in our area, but it's only in theaters till like, it's the weirdest thing. Like, it appeared in theaters last night in like on the app.
Oh,
in like Fandango or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you can see it here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. By Friday,
what's
gone? I'm like, what is this? What is this?
It doesn't help us at all.
It doesn't even make sense. I don't get it. So I don't know. I've heard people say really good things about that one. I am trying to find a way to get out and go see it. Inside Out 2, people might think like, oh, it made so much money. It was really well reviewed. I think it has a shot, but I agree with you that I think The Wild Robot is the front runner here.
Yep, it's going to take it.
And then this silly cinematic box office achievement category that they've had. I guess they had it last year. I totally blocked this out. I do not remember it last year. Apparently Barbie won it last year, which makes total sense. I don't know what's going to win this thing this year. Wicked, presumably, right?
It could be Wicked, could be Deadpool and Wolverine. Just depends on
what is the criteria. Like, is it just what? Because what does it mean?
Did it make money?
It has to be good and make money, because if so, Deadpool Wolverine is out.
If
it's
so,
not
all of
good.
these are out. No, Alien Romulus wins in that case.
Well, Inside Out 2 could win.
It could.
Wicked's okay. Wicked's good.
It's good. It is good.
And The Wild Robot is great.
I think it's strictly it's only here to satisfy the needs for ideas and push the cultural motivation to go to the theater, dress up like your favorite character, get those photo ops, get those special popcorn buckets, all of that. So,
and I'm actually in favor of that.
Yes.
If it accomplishes that goal,
yes,
then great.
Yes.
If somebody can be like, oh, I saw Twisters, it was my favorite movie of the year, and they can see it on a major award show, and that makes them feel warm and fuzzy inside, mission accomplished, I'm in favor. We can do whatever. We can put whatever we want in that category. I will not care.
Yep.
Because I want people to go to the movie theater.
Emilia Pérez right there.
Just slap it in there. Box office achievement on Netflix. Those are the only other ones. Oh, except for Selena Gomez.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about that. There's been comparisons to the America Ferrera nomination, even though that was Academy Awards. Maybe she'll get nominated for Academy Award. Clutch the pearls if that happens. This, though, America Ferrera wasn't like bad in Barbie.
No, she just played her role.
Yeah.
It was just a very neutral
very
role.
Basic, and it was fine.
Yep.
Selena Gomez was actively terrible in Emilia Pérez. Like,
you know what she was really good at? They played like she did sing like as part of the narrative in the movie, but there was
one song, maybe two,
1.5.
Yeah.
But they like the first note you hear, the first vocal you hear is her. Like there's a backtrack where she's just singing something, and I'm like, oh, that's Selena. Like, man, it sounds pretty good. This movie might be good. False. It fakes you out so hard.
It does.
And then she sings something else midway, kind of in the background, and then also at the end. Like there's like 3 hits that you get that's not part of the real narrative. It's kind of part of the soundtrack. And I think she should have been nominated for that and not her acting performance.
Original song,
yes.
No, but it's like the one person in your cast who's an actual singer barely sings.
Yes.
It's again such a backwards movie. It boggles my mind.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the Globes before we move on?
Any thoughts on the Globes? It's going to be maybe the worst year of the Golden Globes I've ever seen.
That's a pretty high bar to clear. I mean, the Globes are awful. The Globes are terrible. And how are we still doing the Globes? Because they had all the corruption with the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, that whole thing happened. They were taken off the air completely. They basically like served like a 2-year ban. They returned to the air last year. Could not find a host.
Nope.
Like scrambling. They got that what was his name? Joe Coy? Joy? I don't know what.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
And he was
What's his name? I'm not trying to
like Chelsea Handler's
Joe Coy.
ex, right? I'm pretty sure it was her ex, Chelsea Handler.
So he's a comedian, and I think that he's probably a very funny guy, but because of the rushness of it, he bombed.
Yeah, wrong. It's wrong place.
I felt so bad for him.
Kind of like Kill Tony in the Republican National Convention. Like,
yeah.
Funny person, wrong placement.
Right. It was just a bad scene, and it's like one of those gigs that like he couldn't pass it up because of where he's at in his career. He's like, that's the biggest thing I've ever done.
Right.
And yet he's up there bombing, doing terrible. Nobody's laughing.
Yeah.
It's bad. And he literally said at one point, like, come on, guys, I got this job a week ago or something like
Right.
so bad. So I'm like, how could it get worse? How are we still watching the Globes?
Yeah, that guy's still.
I'm not.
That guy's still in hiding. I don't think we've heard from him since that night.
Poor guy. I do not watch the Globes. I have not watched it since like the first year we did this podcast. I won't watch it.
Yeah.
I think it's dreadful. And I love movies, but I think it's really bad.
We'll look at the results and we'll update you guys.
There you go. We'll do that. Okay. Now that we've talked way too long about the Golden Globes, longer than they deserve, we're going to talk about the other big news this week, which is crazy. The Wrap had an exclusive report yesterday that Chris Evans is returning to star in Avengers Endgame. Now, we don't know what role he'll be playing in that film. And you might say to yourself, well, that's crazy because he's Chris Evans. Of course, he's going to play Captain America. But the answer is no. We don't know because Robert Downey Jr., he nulls that out. He nullifies that because he's back, but he's playing Dr. Doom.
Right.
So it's like, now, we're pretty sure. Are we pretty sure? I can't remember this. Are we pretty sure that has it been confirmed, I guess is what I should say, that the Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom is a Tony Stark variant? I don't know that has been like.
They're being evasive about it.
Yeah, right?
They're trying to act like it has nothing to do with that. He's just kind of looks like their Tony, and that's where they're gonna like stand on. Oh my goodness! Well, you look like my mentor. Like I lost someone very dear that looked exactly like you. It's crazy. That sort.
Which do we agree that would be terrible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Would be bad.
That's how I feel. That's bad writing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
He has to be a variant.
Yeah. So let's assume he is.
Yeah.
Then this all but confirms that. And so if that's the case, does that mean that Chris Evans is also a variant?
I think so. I think so. I want to first of all, before we keep going, I want to tell you how I found out about Chris Evans was from you.
Oh no, what is this?
Cameron nonchalantly texted me, okay, sounds good. Tentatively thinking we discuss the Globes broadly as well as the Chris Evans Avenger news that just dropped. Me being completely blind to what was happening that particular day, I said, "What news?" in all caps, and you just dropped the screenshot, and I gave you the ghost screaming emoji face.
Well, first I left you on red for like an hour. Was it 3 hours?
It was a long time.
Because I had to like cook dinner, put my kids to bed, whatever. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll tell Kirk what this news is.
And yet I was so busy during that news media stretch that I couldn't even Google it myself.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to text me and be like, never mind, jerk, I figured it out. But no, you waited faithfully until I told you myself.
Yes.
Which I kind of respect. It was good.
I was like, you need to give me this news. I trust no other person to do it. So I think that he would be a variant, but maybe we finally get Nomad, which we got kind of a tease during the original MCU Infinity War saga. That's a very real possibility.
We did get a tease of that. We also kind of got a tease of it in Deadpool and Wolverine. Some people thought that was what that was going to be.
Right, because he
like
had the cloak, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's maybe he's Pyro. Maybe he's like, I don't know. Pyro's probably too
close, right? Too close. He's going to be someone like...
He could be, I don't know. Somebody that Doom would work with.
Sentry. He's going to be Sentry.
Sentry's a good guy. When we already have a Sentry.
We lost our Sentry, I thought.
No, we have Sentry.
Wasn't it going to
be Bill Pullman's son?
Oh,
he's playing Sentry.
I just get news all day long.
In the Thunderbolts.
I didn't realize this.
Yeah, so he's playing Sentry.
Well, good for him. I
think that'll be good, actually.
I threw my hat in for the casting, but I'm glad for him.
Well, it was gonna be Steven Yeun.
Yeah.
Which would have been fantastic. And then we got Bill Pullman's son, who I'm demeaning by not saying his actual name. What's his actual name?
Bill Jr. I don't know.
No, something Pullman. Anyway.
Mr. Pullman Jr.
I'm the worst. I'm the worst at names. Anyway.
Sean.
I'm looking it up.
Derek.
He was in Top Gun Maverick.
Greg. Roger.
No, stop it.
I'm just filling time while you Google it.
Lewis Pullman.
Lewis. That was going to be the last name I would ever pick.
So yeah, I don't know, but I'm right now, here's where my head's at, is that Chris Evans is back as a variant, an evil variant from Evil Land. I don't know which universe this is going to be, but whatever one, Tony Stark is also Dr. Doom, and maybe his name's not Tony Stark or something, whatever.
It's Donnie Bark.
Watch it be like a Ralph Boner situation.
Oh, no.
Again, they just do that to us.
No, thank you.
They bring Chris Evans back. But here's the other thing it means. We will not have had an Avengers movie without Tony Stark, without Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, after the entire point of Endgame was to bid those two characters a beautiful farewell. Yeah. Specifically those two. Like, they let Iron Man have his I Am Iron Man snap dead deal, and they let Steve ride off in the Tuscan sunset. The other Avengers either kind of hung around. Black Widow died, but then she got another movie. And so literally the entire sort of point of Endgame was to send those two original Avengers off. And now we're not even going to have one Avengers movie without them.
Yeah. They're leaning too hard into comic lore where, your favorite superhero dies every month.
Yeah.
But they come back because you want to know why? It's a comic book. That's the only thing. But when you have a movie and you build this tension and this drama and this camaraderie and this ensemble, and you say, how could we live without them? And then you just say, you're going to, and then to bring them back is such a cheap move.
It's kind of a fine line, because I think you want to not have to say goodbye to people because you're like, well, Chris Evans is Captain America. Let's keep him as Captain America. Everybody loves it. It's great, whatever. But you have to have stakes because it's movies.
Yes.
And so it is a tough thing. But I do kind of feel like bringing them back the first, like they literally have not missed an Avengers movie at all.
Nope.
I think that's a bad look. I think it's a desperate look. And don't get me wrong, they are desperate. So, desperate times call for desperate measures, and this certainly seems to be that. So, I don't know. I think it's a bad look. Here's my thing. This movie comes out in 2026. Like, I think it's slated for May 1st, 2026. Do people still care about the MCU by May 1st, 2026?
Ooh. Maybe it depends on how strong Captain America Brave New World is.
Yep.
Not the box office numbers, but the actual film itself.
Yeah.
Because I think some weird people will boycott that movie for dumb reasons. But I do believe it's going to be, is the quality of that film strong enough to carry us into Avengers and Thunderbolts? I really think a lot lies on Thunderbolts too. Even though I don't think they'll be a big part of Avengers, maybe half of them will be. I think those two properties are very important to keep interest in the MCU.
Yeah, I think... Well, then there's Fantastic Four.
And Kraven, right? Everyone's really excited.
Which technically doesn't relate. Dude, that tweet, when that tweet hit today that Kraven was the end of the Sony universe of Marvel characters.
Yeah.
Which is the funniest acronym ever. When that tweet
Do you have
hit,
champagne somewhere?
I laughed so hard. And I thought it was even funnier because we didn't get a screening invite from Sony for Kraven. And I'm like, dude, they're just like, screw it. They're reading the numbers and they're like, well, boys, pack it up. Nobody's going to see this movie.
We can't afford to staff the early screenings, so just put it in theaters, let it die.
That's brutal. Which I mean, yeah, it's bad. Aaron Taylor Johnson's a good actor too.
He is.
It's a crying shame. But back to the MCU, the one with the better acronym, not that terrible
SUMC.
Terrible. Yeah, I think Captain America, Brave New World, if that is good, that helps a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they said it did bad with test audiences, and I don't know if that was pre or post reshoots or what, but the trailers look good.
If it's not as good as the upcoming Superman trailer, the MCU will fall apart.
Well, yeah, that Superman trailer could drop any day.
Yeah.
And that could be like the stake through the heart of Marvel. If it looks fire, people are going to be like, all right, we're good. Pack it up. See you later.
They put their Batman cowl on
It's
and their
been
Superman
fun.
cape.
Oh man, when that drops.
I'm telling you right now, if you have any hesitancy towards the DCU Superman, maybe you're worried about the colors, maybe you're worried about the production, I just want to tell you that David Corenswet, if you haven't seen him in anything, go watch something and your trust will be restored immediately.
He's he's got it.
You have seen him. He's in Twisters. He's the kind of the grumpy nerd guy that travels with the group.
Which is a weird role for him, but he does well.
He does very well in that role for some crazy reason.
Yeah.
He's
he
very
does.
good.
And he's in that Searchlight movie.
Greatest Hits.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
With so many names. Hell, the girl from Sing Street.
Yeah.
Who's also in Bohemian Rhapsody. See, I know what movie she's in.
Now I've seen too many movies that
Lucy Boynton.
That's
her name.
My encyclopedia of actors is fading.
I had to really dig in there. But yeah, he's great. I think he'll be really good. I think that movie's going to be really good, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, on the MCU, I agree with you. Captain America is big. Thunderbolts, I honestly think Thunderbolts could be not great and they'd be okay.
Yeah. If it's better than Black Widow, because we got a lot of characters from Black Widow and the family, right? If it's better than that, we're good.
I think expectations are super low for Thunderbolts.
Excellent.
So I mean, I'm just speaking from personal experience. I don't feel like anybody's expecting that to be amazing. So if it is amazing, that's a huge win. But then Fantastic Four is a big one.
Is that going to come before?
It comes before Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday. So yeah, it comes out early 2025. So yeah. And then the other cast members that Deadline confirmed would be in Avengers Doomsday were Benedict Cumberbatch, Tom Holland, all of the Fantastic Four, Anthony Mackie. So that's pretty much it. in addition to Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. Those are the ones that they've sort of confirmed so far. So listen, I'm not gone. I'm not gone from the MCU. I'm pretty darn close, dude. Like I didn't watch Agatha.
You should turn that back on. It was a good series.
Good enough to make me go, like, is it actually good?
It's actually good.
It's not just like, hey, that wasn't horrible.
No, it's actually good.
So then the other one is Daredevil. I feel like Daredevil is sneaky. Like if Daredevil is fantastic, which it could be, I think that brings people back.
Yeah, and I think it will, because they waffled on how they wanted to present Daredevil, because of it was definitely not the Disney Daredevil before.
Right.
They Disney-fied him in She-Hulk.
Bad.
Didn't work. And they said, you know what? We will continue the storyline that was from the original Netflix series.
Yeah, they scrapped like a whole bunch of stuff and like remade the whole show.
We will bring back his buddies that made that ensemble
Punisher
work.
comes back, and they're all back.
Yeah, it's gonna be successful.
I hope so. I want the MCU to thrive. I do. I'm not one of these like film people who's like the MCU is toxic. It's terrible. I'm in the Sebastian Stan camp. How Sebastian Stan was like, listen, the MCU is necessary for the film industry. It's a good thing. When it's doing well, it's a good thing. Now, whenever it looks bad and feels bad and it's bad, then call it bad. It's bad. But when it's good, it's a rising tide raises all boats, and I really do believe that, because I think that you look at 2019 when Avengers Endgame came out, the movie theaters were popping, and it wasn't just Endgame. There was all kinds of stuff people were going to see.
Yep.
So I mean, like it really can be helpful. Even if those movies are not your cup of tea and you like more artsy stuff, I like that stuff too. I'm just saying the MCU is not bad, and I want it to succeed. And I would love to have a world in which the MCU and DCU are both thriving.
That would be the perfect world.
That's a great world. I would love that.
And I hope that they find the balance as James Gunn, crushes it over at DCU.
Yeah, I think he's going to do great. I started Creature Commandos. That's pretty fun. It's not like blow your doors off amazing, but it's a fun little animated show.
Good.
So yeah, good. Well, that's it. We're gonna see what happens with the MCU. I'm anxious. I'm anxious for February, because that's when Captain America: Brave New World comes out. And I saw I was at the theater the other day. What was I watching? Nosferatu, and they had a big cardboard thing for Captain America, and I was like, you know what? That's gonna be. I'm ready for that. I'm ready. I'm mentally prepared for that, and I hope they knock it out of the park. I really do.
They will.
Well, that's all we got. Kind of a weird episode today. Apologies for that, but we had fun.
We did.
So yeah, remember, if you've seen Emilia Pérez, drop your thoughts in the comments, good or bad. I just am so intensely curious about that one in particular, and any of the other Globe nominees. And if you're one of these people who's like way into the Marvel stuff, I like to get into the comic book lore and stuff like that too. Let us know what your Chris Evans theories are, because I'm kind of drawing blanks here. Like I'm at the point now where I don't think he's coming back as Captain America per se, but
do you know what would be fun? This just
maybe they do both.
I would love if how Deadpool went through like basically his filmography and started killing versions of himself in bad movies. Chris Evans did a lot of bad movies before he was Captain America, and I would love if Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool goes through and starts killing off bad Chris Evans roles, and then drops him into whatever role that's planned for him.
Dude, he also did a lot of bad movies after he was Captain America.
He sure did.
Have you seen what he's on right now? Ghosted was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Terrible movie. Terrible. And now he's in Red One. I'm like, this guy, he was supposed to be a big deal.
You were the chosen one.
He was, dude. Remember when he was in Snowpiercer?
Dude. I just watched a movie called The Iceman with him, Chris Evans. Didn't know he was in it. Michael Shannon.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Chris Evans does a fantastic.
Dude, he was gonna be
job.
this like it was gonna be this thing where like he's gonna knock the MCU dust off his shoulders and go out and win Academy Awards. He did like Knives Out. And then all of a sudden, it's like stinker after stinker after stinker. Now, like Sebastian Stan's a bigger star than him. Like, what is happening?
He sure is.
What is happening?
Well, I think Sebastian Stan is maybe how to put this, a good person. I think Chris Evans is kind of a snob. It's you can't shake the Boston out of you, man. You just can't.
It does feel that way
now,
sometimes.
Some Bostonians can lean into that, like you got your Bill Burrs, and they're like, I don't care what you think. But it just doesn't work when you're Chris Evans and you're trying to be charming and win the hearts of girls, right? So
well played.
Yeah. So I
good
think
point.
he's got some growing up to do, even though he's about 42 years old.
Sometimes it'd be like that. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, feel free to subscribe, whether you're listening in podcast form. And if you are listening in podcast form, we heavily encourage you to also check out our YouTube channel and subscribe, like, and comment there. And vice versa. If you're a YouTube watcher, go ahead and check us out there. We're also on all the social medias, so you can find us by searching Popcorn for Breakfast anywhere. We have our website. Kirk jumped the gun there. Popcorn, 4 breakfast.com, where you can check out the latest blogs from us as well as Stefano, who's been seeing movies. We've been sending him off to go see movies. He just watched Luca Guadagnino's Queer.
We have a button and we just say, go!
Yeah.
And it jettisons him to the movie theater.
Is what is it? Nickel Boys review drops tomorrow. Is that the one that's dropping tomorrow?
Sure.
I can't remember. I'm so sorry. Anyway, popcorn, 4 breakfast.com. My brain is not working. The blogs are there. We want to give a special thanks to our title sponsor, St. Louis Area Smoothie Kings, as well as our executive producer, Ryan, and we will see you guys next time.
Talk to you then.